This is your ultimate stop for everything sports. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Should I say more? From the NFL, MLB, the NBA to MMA, it's all in here. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Listen now.
And welcome to the GSMC Sports Podcast. This episode is brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. As always, I'm your host, Jesse Tapia, and for today's show, we're going to start off with some NBA, talk about the games from last night, which was Wednesday. Is today Wednesday? Yeah, Tuesday, actually. Yeah, today is Wednesday. Yesterday was Tuesday. Got it mixed up a little bit right there. But yeah, we'll talk about the NBA games from Tuesday. Actually, got to change my title name for the show now because I thought today, yesterday was Wednesday. But we'll talk about the games from Tuesday. Now I'm all mixed up. Yeah, so we'll talk about those games, and then we'll talk about the games going on today, going on Wednesday. And let's see, we'll talk about Thursday Night Football, the game coming up. I believe that's between the Saints and the Falcons. Let me double check that right now. But yeah, we'll talk about Thursday Night Football. And then, it's Saints and Falcons in Atlanta on NBC tomorrow, which is Thursday. Got to get these days back in order. But yeah, we'll be doing that, and then we'll be talking more NFL later on in the show. And then to finish off the show like we usually do, we'll talk about anything else going on in sports. We'll talk. I'll do the college basketball scores. We'll talk about. Let's see what else we talk. We'll talk about Champions League, and then pretty much any news and notes going around the NBA, the NFL, college football, anything like that. So we'll get into that later on. But let's get started with these scores from yesterday from the NBA. So, not a good day picking games for me, okay? There was only 3 games, and I only got one right, all right? I got the Phoenix versus Toronto game right. Toronto won that game 126-113. Devin Booker had 19 points, 8 assists, 5 rebounds. He shot 4-15, and I believe yesterday, too, he left the game with a non-contact injury. So, hopefully he's back, or maybe that was a couple games ago, and he came back. Can't remember exactly, but hopefully he's got everything figured out. Alex Len had 14 points, 7 rebounds, 6 and 9 off the bench, and the rookie Josh Jackson off the bench also had 13 points for Phoenix. So Josh Jackson's finally starting to get it together, it seems. I'm talking about specifically about his play. All right, the guy started off pretty slow in the beginning of the season, and you saw that too with Donovan Mitchell and Dennis Smith. And those 3 guys right there, Josh Jackson, Donovan Mitchell, and Dennis Smith, they all started off pretty slow, but these last couple of weeks they've started to pick up their game and started to play a whole lot better. So maybe they hit that rookie wall in the first couple of weeks, and then boom, they're starting to figure things out and get more comfortable. But Donovan Mitchell, we'll talk about him in the next game that we're going to bring up. It's got one guy I'm really excited about as a rookie. As for Toronto, Kyle Lowry had 20 points, 10 assists, 6 rebounds. He shot 7 of 12 and 5 of 10 from the three-point line. DeMar DeRozan, 20 points, 8 assists, 7 rebounds. He shot 7 of 17 from the game. Pretty much one of the only guys who still is keeping the mid-range game alive. All right, this guy does not take threes like everyone else does, and with how athletic and pretty much how much he scores, like how often he scores, he's a great scorer in the league. And just based off of those 2 things, you think, you know what, maybe DeMar DeRozan should be a 3-point shooter, but he just sticks to mid-range and drives in. His mid-range game is probably the best in the league right now. No one could ever stop it. I know when he's playing my Celtics, dude, he always goes off for around 37 to 40 points because they simply have no answer for his mid-range shots. It's always close games, too, between them, and you always see DeMar DeRozan backing up, ready for that mid-range shot, turns around, but sometimes he makes it, sometimes he misses it. But yeah, this guy's the best mid-range shooter in the league right now for me. As for Serge Ibaka, he had 19 points, 6 rebounds, and everyone's favorite player that comes off the bench, CJ Miles, had 15 points and 6 rebounds for Toronto. Once again, they won 126-113. This game right here, I was the most disappointed about, okay, because I picked Utah against Oklahoma City, and Utah was leading for most of the game. Then the fourth quarter comes, and they pretty much just throw it away. I've been seeing Jazz fans, too, and Jazz writers also point out how Ricky Rubio, he's really hurting the team. He's not out there really producing. I think he was a minus 14 yesterday in the fourth quarter, just the fourth quarter alone, too. Let me see if I can pull up his stats right here. But, he was a minus 14 in just the fourth quarter alone. You know how hard that is, okay? When he was on the floor, for those that don't know what plus minus is, it's pretty much what the plus is for, how many positive points that your team scores. Okay, obviously, like how many points your team scores, and then the minus comes from how many points the opposing team scores when you're on the floor. So for the amount of time that he was on the floor, the other team scored 14 more than the Jazz scored when he was on there. So yeah, he's not, like, he really hasn't worked out. I know they brought in Ricky Rubio because they lost George Hill, and they thought Ricky Rubio would be a good facilitator, but he hasn't even been there. He hasn't been able to really produce anything, and really he hasn't helped out at all, really. Let me see. All right, so I got his plus minus here. He had finished with a -6, but like I said, he was a -14 in the fourth quarter. So that means he was at what? That means let's see if Jesse could do math right here. It means he was at a +8 before the fourth quarter, and then yeah, that -14 brought him down to -6. So yeah, that fourth quarter really killed the Jazz, and you know what? They should have won that game, but they simply couldn't pull it out. But as for everyone else, Donovan Mitchell, the rookie out of Arizona, he had 31 points, 4 assists. He shot 11 of 22, and like I said, right now I got Donovan Mitchell probably as the third best rookie in the league right now. You'd have to go Ben Simmons at number 1, Jason Tatum at 2, then Mitchell, and then who do we have at 4? I'll go Kuzma at 4 from the Lakers, and then at number 5, I'd go with Dennis Smith Jr. unless I'm missing someone. I like Markkanen out of Chicago. I think he's been playing really well too. But I don't know. There's something about Dennis Smith that I really like about his game. He's not really afraid to go drive into the hoop, and he doesn't play like a rookie. He plays like he belongs in the league. That's one thing I like about him. Are we missing anyone else though? No, I think that's good for my top 5. So yeah, it'd be Ben Simmons, Jason Tatum, Donovan Mitchell. Who did I have at 4? I'm drawing a blank right now. I literally just read it off, and I'm drawing a blank. Who did I have at 4? You know what? Just forget it. All I know is Donovan Mitchell. He's a top 3 rookie for me. Like I said, he had 31 points, 4 assists. Joe Ingles had 16 points, 4 assists. He shot 6 of 13 in the game. Rudy Gobert came back from his injury. He had 5 points, 6 rebounds. He took 2 shots. He was one of 2. He had played 27 minutes. I'm not sure if this was Gobert's first game back, but I know he just recently came back. Paul George, he had 21 points. He shot 7 of 13. So pretty good shooting game from him finally. This OKC team cannot shoot the ball. I mean, at least they got scores. Paul George, Melo, and Westbrook. Those are scores right there, okay? But you know what? Paul George and Melo really haven't been too efficient, and Westbrook either. I mean, yesterday he played well, but games before that he really hasn't been all too efficient either. So we'll see how it all plays out for them. But speaking of Russell Westbrook, he had 34 points, 13 rebounds, 14 assists. He shot 12 of 25. Carmelo Anthony, 14 points, 8 rebounds. He shot 6 of 19. And Steven Adams had 20 points, 9 rebounds, and he shot 9 of 10. Pretty much did whatever he wanted against Gobert. But Carmelo Anthony, I know people like to think that he's like a top 10 player in the NBA, top 15, but I think he's barely even top 20. I mean, I'm really I've never been too high on Melo, okay? Yeah, when he was playing with the Nuggets, he was a top 5 player in the league. And he really, like, ever since he went to the Knicks, I mean, yeah, he played well, but it never really blossomed out to what everyone expected him to be with the Knicks. And now he's pretty much heading towards the end of his career. Like, he's not, like, old or anything like that. He's been around since 2003. So what is that, 14 years? This is his 14th year, it should be. Yeah, so you know what? He is up there in NBA career years, but it's just Carmelo Anthony really, ever since he left Denver, he really hasn't been that same player that like that great player we all expected him to be. Like, yeah, he's been good and like he's a scorer and all that, but it's really, he's not top 15 right now, and he's barely even top 20, like I said. So I just never really understood the hype with Carmelo Anthony ever since he left Denver. But yeah, like I said, he only had 14 points, 8 rebounds, and he shot 6 of 19. Another game I got terribly wrong was the Washington Wizards versus Portland Trailblazers game. This basically could have been Portland Trailblazers versus Bradley Beal, because that's the only guy other than Kelly Oubre Jr. who did anything for Washington. I still don't know how they beat Portland by 14 points. Like, really, Portland, what are we doing here? All right, this is why I'm never too high on Portland or anything like that, because you got them, okay, they got Damian Lillard, and they got McCollum, okay, they got Evan Turner, who played well in Boston. He really hasn't been that guy that played well in Boston and Portland, but nonetheless, he's a good player. Then you got Nurkic, who's a good player. And either way, this team is good enough to where they shouldn't be losing by 14 to a Washington Wizards team where, let's see, let me do some quick math right here. 10, 14, 21, where 4 out of the 5 starters only scored 21 points, and John Wall isn't playing. Like, I don't understand. It's so hard to pick Portland because you never know how they're gonna play. They're not a mediocre team, and they're not an average team. They're like above average, probably. Maybe I can't even call them a good team because they're not consistent enough to where you can be like, oh yeah, this is a game Portland's gonna be able to pull out. Okay, because when you got John Wall out, the Wizards really aren't a good team. This team pretty much functions around him, and when he's not out there facilitating and pretty much bringing the team together and making everyone around him better, then the team really, it's like they're missing pretty much the heart of the team right there. Okay, they're not really going to work too well, but either way, Portland just still couldn't pull this one out. Going back to the stats though, let's go to the top starting five for Washington. I'll tell you how they did. All right, Marcus Morris, 30 minutes, shot 2 of 10, had 8 points. Okay, Otto Porter Jr. played 30 points, shot 1 of 8, had 2 points. Martin Gortat, 23 minutes, shot 1 of 6, only had 4 points. All right, Tim Frazier, he's been the fill-in for John Wall since he's been out. He had 24 minutes. He played 24 minutes, shot 3 of 6, and had 7 points. Okay, now here's a big one right here. Bradley Beal played 43 minutes, shot 21 of 37, 5 of 12 from the three-point line, and had 51 points. Okay, literally, the Portland Trailblazers lost to Bradley Beal. Not literally, obviously, but you see, you get my point, okay? Because when you got Kelly Oubre Jr. being the next highest scorer with 14 points, he shot 6 of 9, played 27 minutes. Had a good game from him, but really no one else really did anything notable. Okay, I don't understand how Portland loses this game. All right, yeah, Bradley Beal 51 points. No one else besides Oubre Jr. did anything else. That just shows how bad Portland played yesterday. Okay, because then you got Damian Lillard. He played 43 minutes. He shot 10 of 23, had 30 points, 9 assists, 8 rebounds. CJ McCollum, he's really got to step it up. He's really started off slow this season. He really hasn't picked up his game at all. He had 14 points in 37 minutes. He shot 6 of 16. Joseph Nurkic had 15 points, 9 rebounds in 29 minutes, and Al-Farouq Amino, he had 17 points, 6 rebounds, and he played 36 minutes also. The problem with the Trailblazers comes from their bench, right? They played everyone off of their bench except for one guy, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's 7 guys off the bench they played yesterday. Let's see, they went for a combined, 2, 4, 7, 10, 13 points from 7 guys combined, all right? That's not good enough from the bench, so Portland really, the reason why, I'm starting to figure it out, the reason why Portland is really a team who finishes in the middle of the pack in the West and really doesn't do anything ever, and you really can't count on them, is that they can never put a complete game together. It's always Damian Lillard and CJ McCollum who are doing the work, and then when they win, there's like a couple other players who play well, but they've never really been able to put a full game together, and that's why they're 13-11, and that's why they lost to the Wizards by 14, but that's all I got to say about that. Let's talk about these games going on tonight, which is Wednesday. All right, so first off, we got Dallas heading into Boston against the Celtics. Really excited to see how Dennis Smith Jr. plays, but I'm pretty sure we all know how this game ends. It ends with Boston winning, probably by double digits. But yeah, it's gonna be an interesting game. We're gonna see how how Dennis Smith does against his defense, and pretty much how Brad Stevens game plans for Dennis Smith. So I got the Celtics in that one. Let's see. Can I finally have one good day, though, where I finally make a bunch of picks and I get pretty much 99% of them right? Like, I only get one wrong at least. Like, come on now. We had 3 games yesterday, and I got only one game right yesterday. I mean, who would have thought that the Wizards without John Wall would beat the Trailblazers by 14? And I know Oklahoma City's still a popular team, but, I mean, if you think about it, Utah is better than them because you know what? Oklahoma City, I'm always going to pick against them when they're playing against the team with a good defense because already as it is, this team can't shoot the ball, and they don't really pass the ball well either. So, I mean, I have reasons for why I made my picks, but it stinks, you know? I mean, let me get some right for once. But, yeah, I got the Celtics against Dallas tonight. I got, Sacramento's heading into Cleveland, facing off with the Cavs. We all know how this game's going to end. Cleveland's winning this one big. And then you got Chicago hitting into Indiana. I got Indiana in this one. Finally didn't say Indianapolis for once. But, yeah, I got the Pacers against the Bulls. Hopefully Oladipo picks up his play. He's been playing lights out through the last couple of weeks. But I think last game he didn't play too well. He only had like 16 points. And let's see, we got Atlanta hitting into Orlando. I know I got to make an upset pick sooner or later here because I know, I mean, all the favorite teams aren't going to win. But as for Atlanta and Orlando, I'm going to go with Orlando in this one. Man, Orlando really let me down. They started off hot in the beginning of the season. Aaron Gordon was playing well. He's still playing good, too. And they just got Elfrid Payton back, I think it is, or was it Fournier? I think it was Payton. They just got back a couple weeks ago. But, yeah, they started off hot. Now they're 10-15 trying to figure it out. Let me see. Are they even in? I don't even think they're in contention in the Eastern Conference. Yeah, right now they're about what? Let's see. All right, so Indiana's 13-11. Jesse's got to do some math. Jesse don't like doing math. All right, so I'm going to go, it's probably like 3 games. 3 games back of, I'm going to go 3 games back of Indiana for that A spot. So Orlando really needs to figure it out. Once again, I hate math, but yeah, so I got the Magic against the Hawks. Then Memphis is heading into New York, facing off with the Knicks. Let's see. No Porzingis today. Is Porzingis playing? Let's see. He's day to day. If Porzingis plays, this is a tough game. This is probably the toughest game I have to pick. Let's see. I'm gonna go with Memphis right here if Porzingis does not play. If Porzingis comes back and plays tonight, then I got the Knicks. You know what? No, I'm not even gonna do that. You know what? I got Memphis, all right? I'm picking Memphis against the Knicks tonight. I'm sticking to it, all right? Next up, we got Golden State heading into Charlotte. No Steph Curry in this one. Poor guy doesn't get to play in his hometown. He's injured. He's actually going to be out for a couple of weeks, I think it is. But let's see. I'm going to go. Man, this is so tough. Draymond Green's day-to-day, too. I'm not sure if he's playing. I have to double-check that. But let's go with, I almost said Charlotte. I almost said it. I'm going to go. Can I pick against the Warriors? No, I'm not allowed to. I got the Warriors in this one, all right? Yeah, I got the Warriors, and yes, I am allowed to pick against them. But, yeah, I got the Warriors in this one. I forget they got Kevin Durant and Klay Thompson, so it doesn't really matter. Watch, the Hornets are going to win that game. I know it. But I'm going to pick the Warriors to be safe. I need to get these picks right. All right, let's go Detroit. They're heading into Milwaukee, facing off with the Bucks. Who does Jesse like in this one? I like, this is a tough one right here, too, right here. Let's go. Eeny, meeny, miny, mo. I got the Pistons. Milwaukee's favored. I got the Pistons in this one. So, yeah, I got the Pistons against the Bucks. Nuggets against, next game, Nuggets heading into New Orleans, facing off the Pelicans. These are some tough games right here to pick. I'm going to go with the Nuggets. Haven't been playing well as of late. And the Pelicans always let me down when I pick them. So you know what that means? I'm picking the Pelicans, all right? I think they're going to be able to win. They're probably going to lose, but who knows? I got the Pelicans against the Nuggets. Heat against the Spurs. I got the Spurs in this one, no doubt. Let's see. Next game, Timberwolves versus Clippers. You know, when the Timberwolves have a game that they should win, they always lose. So, you know, I'm going to go with the Timberwolves still. I think they're going to be able to pull it out. Playing on ESPN tonight at 7:30, 10:30 Eastern time. Again, that's just one of those things right there. Man, so grateful to be living on the West Coast. Imagine having to watch a sporting event at 10:30 at night. That's brutal. But, yeah, I got the Timberwolves. I think Jimmy Butler's going to play well. Karl Anthony Towns needs to play well. And then maybe Andrew Wiggins can shoot the ball tonight. But we'll see. All right, just to recap those picks. I got the Celtics beating the Mavericks. I got the Cavs beating the Kings. The Pacers beating the Bulls. Magic beating the Hawks. The Grizzlies beating the Knicks. The Warriors beating the Hornets. But I'm not feeling too good about that pick right there. I got the Pistons beating the Bucks, the Pelicans beating the Nuggets, the Spurs beating the Heat, and the Timberwolves beating the Clippers. Hopefully, I get these ones right. If not, then I'm just going to keep trying and just keep getting them wrong probably. But that's actually going to wrap it up for this segment. Next up, we're going to talk about some Thursday night football between the Falcons and Saints. So stay tuned, and we'll be right back.
Are you looking for the very best NFL and college football podcast? Then check out the GSMC Football Podcast. Get the latest football news both on and off the field. From the NFL Draft to trades to the rumor mill to the NFL Combines, they got you covered. That's GSMCpodcast.com/football-podcast. Get updates on college rivalries, game day insights, and much, much more. It's football talk the way you want it. This show eats, sleeps, and breathes football. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
And welcome back to the GSMC Sports Podcast. This episode, I almost did the intro right there. Man, I gotta stop trying to do the intro. But once again, just a quick reminder, this episode is brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. But, I mean, that's just another throw in right there. I didn't mean to do the intro right there, almost did it. But you know what? Just gotta go with the flow of the podcast. And there we go. I just threw out what the episode was brought to you by again. But like I said, I messed this whole segment up, but going back to the last segment, if you missed that one, I pretty much recapped the games from Tuesday night and picked the games for tonight, which is Wednesday. I'm going to recap my picks for tonight. I got the Celtics beating the Mavericks, Cleveland beating Sacramento, the Pacers beating the Bulls, the Magic beating the Hawks, the Grizzlies beating the Knicks, the Warriors beating the Hornets, the Pistons beating the Bucks, the Pelicans beating Denver, the Spurs beating the Heat, and the Timberwolves beating the Clippers. And I just noticed something. Sometimes, like for some teams, I'll say like their team name, and then for some of them, I'll say like the city that they play in. Like for Dallas, I usually just, I did it right there. For the Mavericks, I usually just call them Dallas. Celtics, I'll call them the Celtics. The Cavs, it's either for Cleveland, I call them Cleveland or the Cavs. I call Sacramento the Kings. The Bulls, I call the Pacers usually Indiana. Atlanta, I never call them the Hawks. I always call them Atlanta. And then the same for Orlando. Let's see. For Grizzlies, I never call them by their name. I call them Memphis. I call the Knicks the Knicks. The Warriors. I call them that. I call Charlotte. Yeah, see right there. I call the Hornets Charlotte. And it's just pretty weird. Something I never really noticed until now. So look at, we're learning things every day. But either way, let's talk about this Thursday night football game we got coming up tomorrow. So we got the Saints heading into Atlanta, facing off with the Falcons. All right, Saints coming off a 31-21 win against Carolina, big win for them right there. Lengthened their lead in the NFC North. Right now they're 9-3. Carolina's 8-5, I believe. And are they 8-5? That doesn't sound too right. Did I get one wrong? Let's see. What is Carolina's record? Carolina is 8-4. All right, yeah, so they're 8-4. I knew I got one wrong, but Carolina's 8-4 now. Carolina's a game back of the Saints, and right now the Falcons are 7-5. They're coming off a loss. I think it was a 14-9 loss. Man, that's brutal. I mean, you got Julio Jones, you got Tevin Coleman, Devontae Freeman, one of the best quarterbacks in the league, and Matt Ryan. And I'm going to say that. I know people like to hesitate on calling Matt Ryan a great quarterback, one of the best quarterbacks in the league. He is. Don't worry about it. Yeah, but they lost to the Vikings 14-9. How do you only get 9 points out of that offense? I mean, I'm not an offensive coordinator, but I feel like if I was the offensive coordinator for the Falcons, I can get Julio Jones a touchdown a game probably and make that running game a whole lot better than what it is, because you know what? I always look at because when I do every show on a Tuesday for the sports podcast for this one, and then I do the football podcast also. I do that one on Mondays. So Sunday night is when I'm pretty much doing my notes for the show. And I always had to go through each game that was played on Sunday. And every time I get to Atlanta, man, I'm thinking, oh, let's see how they did or whatever. I see the score. Okay, sometimes it's like around the 20s. Sometimes, have they even scored in the 30s this season? Let me double check that right there. Have they even hit 30? I'm sure they have. They have to, right? Okay, so they hit it against the Bucks. 30. Oh, yeah, they actually have hit 30 a couple of times. Let's see, only 2 times? Once, 3 times, 4 times. Oh, yeah, so they've hit 34. They've hit over 30 points 4 times, so it's not too bad, I guess. But let's see. Yeah, I mean, their offense... You know what? Their offense just doesn't produce the way it should, okay? They're not consistent. That's Atlanta's biggest problem right there that I'm realizing. Atlanta's way too inconsistent. All right, like I said, like I always say, you'll have that 200-yard game from Julio Jones, but I mean, are you happy with having 50 to 60-yard games a week from him? And then maybe sometimes he'll throw in that 100-yard game, probably maybe every other couple of weeks. I mean, that's not good enough, right? And then you got Tevin Coleman, Devontae Freeman. They're getting about maybe 20 at the max combined rushes. And that's not good enough. Okay, those are 2 explosive guys right there. I don't understand what the offensive coordinator is trying to do, or maybe it's the head coach who's calling the plays. Either way, they're messing up right there. When you got Julio Jones out there, okay, Mohamed Sanu's a good number 2 receiver, and then you got Matt Ryan playing quarterback. You got Tevin Coleman at the running back position, along with Devontae Freeman. You should be putting up 30 a game easily. All right? You should not be floating around the 20 range, okay? And even for them to be putting up only 9 points against the Vikings, I understand the Vikings have great defense and all that, but it doesn't matter to me, all right? You need to at least be able to put up a touchdown at least. I mean, 9 points? Are you serious, Atlanta? I'll rant about Atlanta a little bit. Let's get into this game right now. So we got Drew Brees heading up against Matt Ryan. Like I said, the Saints are on the road in this one, and this is actually a tough game to call right here, because you know what? On paper, New Orleans is the better team. They're 9-3. Atlanta's 7-5. Atlanta's inconsistent, and New Orleans is consistent. Okay, so you know what? On paper, yeah, the Saints all the way, but this one's a tough game to pick, and it's only a bit tough game to pick because you know what? I want to pick the Saints, and I'm probably gonna pick the Saints, but playing on Thursday night on the road is not fun for any team. And even playing on Thursday night at home ain't fun for any team either, okay? So when you got the Saints coming off a physical game against the Panthers, it's pretty tough. I mean, you got guys who still aren't getting enough recovery time, because usually what is it? Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and then Saturday, I guess. That's 6 days of recovery right there. And then, boom, you play on Sunday. But when you play on Thursday, you only get Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then, boom, fourth day, you're playing Thursday night. So it's only really 3 real days of recovery. So, I mean, it's really tough to call, but I'm going to pick the Saints in this one. I think this is going to be the game that finally finishes the Atlanta Falcons season. That Super Bowl hangover hit them hard. And can you get a Super Bowl hangover if you don't win the Super Bowl? Is that something that happens, or is it the winning team that gets a Super Bowl hangover? I don't know. I have to double check that, but I'm gonna go ahead and say that the Falcons have a Super Bowl hangover, even if they lost. So it's like it's a lose-lose situation. They didn't even get to win the Super Bowl, and then boom, they got the Super Bowl hangover. I mean, maybe the Patriots passed on their Super Bowl hangover from the first 4 weeks to the Falcons after that. But either way, I mean, the Falcons have been terrible so far this season. They're 7-5 and they've got so much talent on that team. The defense, I feel bad for the defense. The defense shows up every week, right, plays well, but it's that offense that kills that team. And you know what? I'm going to pick the Saints in this one. And like I said, it's going to be the game that ends Atlanta's season. I don't like Atlanta. I don't like them at all. Can't stand them, really, just because of how the talent. Like, you're just under. Like, I'm a Miami Dolphins fan, all right? And you got the Falcons, who got all this talent. I've never seen so much talent on a Miami Dolphins team before in my life. So you got all this talent on your team, and you're not utilizing it the right way, man. Like, come on now, okay? Because Atlanta, if they don't win this game, then they're 7-6. Then they got to play the Bucks. Ooh, they're 8-6. And then they got the Saints again and the Panthers. They're gonna, dude. Atlanta. I'm gonna call it right now, okay? The Atlanta Falcons are gonna finish 8-8 this season. That's terrible. I'm calling that right now. Lock it up. Throw it away. Or no, throw it away in the treasure chest, and then once the season's over, open up that treasure chest, put up that lock I made, and then boom, you're gonna see Falcons. That prediction 8-8, it's gonna be true. Okay, they're only gonna win 1 game out of these next 4. They're gonna lose to the Saints. Okay, they're gonna beat the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. That game's on Monday night. Wow, that's brutal. But yeah, they're gonna play the Bucks, and then you got Saints and the Panthers. They're not gonna win after that. Carolina's gonna wipe the floor with them unless no, there's no way they're going to sit their starters because they're only going to be playing for the wild card unless, let's see. What does Carolina got going on next? I know I talked about it on yesterday's podcast, I think, or it might have been the football one. I can't remember exactly, but let's look at Carolina's schedule right now. Let's see. So Carolina's got all right, yeah, so they don't play the Saints anymore. So yeah, chances are Carolina's going to be on that wild card spot. It's going to be between them, the Seahawks, and Green Bay for those two spots right there. I mean, I know I've been saying lately that it's going to be Carolina and Seattle, but that all depends. If Green Bay wins this week against the Browns, and Aaron Rodgers is for sure coming back week 15, then you know what? I might have to switch that. But as of right now, given the teams that are out there right now for Green Bay, Carolina, and Seattle, I'm going Seattle and Carolina for that wild card spot. But back to this game, actually, went a little bit off the topic. I mean, yeah, usually I don't like to pick the road team in Thursday Night Football, but I just can't pick against the Saints right now. And you know what? This might be actually one of those games where I picked the Saints, and it was like what game was it? There was a game last week I picked, and I pretty much, everything that I said, it was the Washington and Dallas game. I pretty much said that Washington was going to blow Dallas out the water, offense was going to play good, and Dallas really wasn't going to show up and play well at all. And it was the complete opposite. The Redskins weren't the ones who showed up, and Dallas was the team who actually showed up. I think Dak Prescott still didn't have all that good of a game, threw like 1 touchdown, I think, or maybe 2, but either way, they ended up getting that win. And that might be just what this game's going to be, okay? Like I said, on paper, pretty much everything is pointing, pick the Saints, don't pick the Falcons. Falcons lost their last game, couldn't put up points. That team is inconsistent. And like I said, I'm not switching up my pick right now. I'm still going with the Saints, but don't be surprised if somehow the Falcons pull it off, because it is Thursday Night Football, and Thursday Night Football is tough to predict. But yeah, I got the Saints right now. They got everything good going for them. They got Mark Ingram playing well. They got Alvin Kamara, who's playing like a beast. The guy's without a doubt going to win the Offensive Rookie of the Year award. Shout out to Kareem Hunt for giving him that award. I mean, don't know what happened right there. The poor Kareem Hunt guy just pretty much went face first into that rookie wall. And I like to say too, like the joke too, that Andy Reid actually threw him into that wall, because I mean, Kareem Hunt was playing well, and then boom, all of a sudden the guy's getting less and less carries and less yards, and it just made no sense to me. But the Chiefs are a whole other thing. I'll probably talk about them in the next segment. So we're going to be talking about some NFL news, or pretty much talk about teams and news in the NFL. You know how we do it. But Yeah, I mean, right now, it's just there's no reason to pick against the Saints for this game. Like I said, Kamara's playing well. Ingram's been a beast all year. Then you got Michael Thomas finally got a touchdown after, 7 games in a row that he didn't. He's been getting around 11, 12 targets a game, been doing well with him. So he's probably going to play well. And then the Saints defense, I mean, that Saints defense the last few years, probably the last decade or so, has been brutal, not played well at all. And the defense has always been a problem for them. But this season, I mean, the defense still isn't great. I think you can call it good. Can you call the Saints defense good? I'm going to call the Saints defense good. All right. Yeah. So the Saints defense has been playing good this season. So, I mean, it's pretty much coming all full circle. That might be a Super Bowl contender right there, along with Philly and Seattle for me. But I guess we're just going to have to wait and see how it all plays out. But once again, I got the Saints in this game against Atlanta. Don't be surprised, though, if Atlanta tries to prove me wrong, because I know most teams like to do that. I know that they are thinking, you know what, Jesse didn't pick us today, so let's go out there and prove him wrong. But either way, yeah, I got the Saints. Think they're going to win. I think this is the game that ends Atlanta's season. So we'll see how it all plays out. It's going to be a fun one tomorrow for Thursday night. But that's going to wrap it up for this segment, actually. Next up, we're going to be talking about the NFL. Eli Manning's going to be starting again. Whole new streak right there. And maybe we'll talk about a couple of teams, and I'll give my thoughts on them from the AFC and NFC. So let's just see how it all plays out, you know. But that's going to wrap it up for this segment. Stay tuned, and we'll be right back.
Check out the show that's built on the MMA, from the UFC to extreme cage fighting. They got the fights covered. Check out the GSMC MMA podcast. Get the latest news on past or upcoming fights. Join us as we talk to and about some of the biggest names in the MMA, past, present, and future. When it's the fight game, there's just one show to check out. GSMCpodcast.com/MMA-podcast. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
Welcome back to the GSMC Sports Podcast. I'm not doing the intro this time again. Not going to do that. Not going to mess up. But yeah, so this is the GSMC Sports Podcast. Thanks for listening so far. If you missed that last segment or need a quick reminder, as I like to say, I'm going to trademark that thing. If you need a quick reminder or missed that last segment, I don't think anyone else says that on their podcast. Boom, that's a trademark item right there, a trademark phrase. There we go. But yeah, last segment we talked about the Thursday night game going on tomorrow between the Saints and the Falcons. Saints are going to be the road team in that one. Obviously, that means Atlanta's going to be the home team, and we're playing at that fancy old stadium. And man, that stadium's so cool too. I get to see, I've seen pictures of it and all that. You know, obviously living in Sacramento, I'm not going to be in Atlanta too much, and a college kid don't got enough money to be heading to Atlanta. But they got a Chick-fil-A in there, man. I mean, how many other stadiums in the world have a Chick-fil-A in their at their stadium? I mean, that's crazy. Imagine going to Atlanta and boom, you're like, oh, I want a chicken sandwich from Chick-fil-A. Boom, you just go walk up to the little vendor and then boom, you get a chicken sandwich from Chick-fil-A, and then plus all the other food that they got at that stadium too in Atlanta. It's all cheap. Like if you got like $2 hot dogs and all that, dollar drinks. I mean, where else do you see that? You don't. That's probably the greatest stadium in the world. I mean, I went to the Kings Celtics game last season in the NBA. Obviously it's the NBA, but you know I got to point it out, just be specific. But yeah, I went to the Kings Celtics game last year in Sacramento at the new arena. New Kings Arena, by the way, is probably one of the nicer arenas I've been to. It was actually my first basketball game. Kind of stinks because the Celtics ended up losing that one, but it was cool to see Isaiah Thomas and all those guys. But yeah, I went to get a pizza and a drink, and I ended up paying $13 for that, and I'm just like, man, these prices are outrageous. But yeah, it's just crazy to see how in Atlanta they got them all for cheap out there. I mean, why can't anyone else do that? Why can't the Kings do that, man? I'd be out there a whole lot more if I did. Like, because the Kings tickets, they're not expensive. The Kings are a bad team right now. They're I don't want to call them a bad team. They're young, so it's hard for them to win. So they're still trying to develop. But yeah, tickets are out there are pretty cheap. Going from around, you can get a Kings ticket probably from around $25 to $40 to sit up top in the upper level, and that's still not too bad right there, sitting upper level. But I mean, yeah, I'd be going to more Kings games if I didn't have to pay, man, about half of that ticket price for food. I mean, I know people are probably saying, why don't you eat before? Maybe I just want a pizza during the game, you know? But nonetheless, going back to that Thursday night game, I really went off topic right there. But yeah, like I said, Atlanta's going to be the home team, all right. And it's tough for road teams on Thursday night to play. And like I said last time, it's tougher to pick a road team on Thursday night because it's pretty much lack of preparation, and you got to fly out already on Wednesday. But I'm gonna go with the Saints in that one, and it's gonna be it for Atlanta's season. But as for this segment, we're gonna talk about some NFL news and pretty much talk about teams that need to be talked about. So let's start off with Eli Manning. So the Giants recently, they just fired Ben McAdoo and Jerry Reese on Monday. Ben McAdoo, the head coach, Jerry Reese, the GM, for those who aren't familiar. So they ended up firing those guys, and then boom, what do you know? Next day, Eli Manning's going to be the starter this Sunday against the Cowboys. I'm pretty sure they're playing the Cowboys. Let me double check it right there. Let's talk a little bit about the Cowboys and Giants game, actually. Not going to go too in-depth or anything like that, but just talk a little bit about it. All right, yeah, so the Cowboys are heading into New York, facing off with the Giants. Boom, Eli Manning, going to be the starter. Going to be the start of a new streak. You know what? Probably can what? Let's see, we got 4 games left. He's going to have 4 straight games. 4 straight games starting at QB with the Giants. Whole new streak right there, and then he's going to be able to start a whole nother streak with a different team next season. Because like I said, Eli Manning, like I've been saying actually the last few podcasts, it's more than likely Eli Manning's going to be gone. I don't see them bringing him back, and I don't think that they're going to bring him back at all. So yeah, right now it's just pretty much Eli's going to go on this nice little 4-game streak right here starting for the Giants, and that's going to be it. It's going to be kind of weird seeing Eli Manning playing for a different team, Because, I mean, I've been so used to seeing him play for the Giants. I mean, the guy's won Super Bowls there. Has he broke records? I'm sure he's broken the interception record for that team. He has to. I mean, the guy's what? Let me see if I could pull up his stats for interceptions as I'm talking to him on my fancy schmancy cellular device. But yeah, Eli Manning, he's just been a great quarterback for that franchise. New York's got to love that guy. And it's going to be weird to see. Like, he's probably going to end up in Denver like his brother did. And just so John Elway can, just so John Elway can pretty much hide the fact that he can't pick a quarterback to save his life, even though he can play the position fine. But yeah, just John Elway. Just going back to that, let's talk about John Elway real quick. That guy is terrible picking quarterbacks. I don't understand how can he be a top 10 quarterback and pretty much just not be able to just find, like, look at a guy like, oh yeah, that guy can play quarterback right there. Like, is it that much tougher? I mean, for me, I know it'd be tough because you know what, I'm not a scout, obviously, so I can't do that job, but I don't know, I don't get it. But either way, going back to Eli Manning, I got his interception stats up right now. He's actually top 20 in all-time interceptions. People like to talk about how Eli throws a lot of interceptions, all right? You know what? Now that I saw that stat, lay off by Eli throwing the interceptions. He's not even top 20, okay? Drew Brees is above him. And we don't talk about how Drew Brees throws interceptions all the time, all right? Drew Brees is 16th. Eli Manning is 18th right now. And like I said, we don't talk about Drew Brees throwing interceptions, so lay off the guy Eli. Let's see if there's anyone else playing right now that's in that top 20. You know what? It might not be. So you know what? Eli Manning is actually right now second all time of active players in interceptions thrown. But you know what? Drew Brees is number 1. So if you want to yell at someone for throwing interceptions, yell at Drew Brees. Don't yell at Eli, all right? But either way, like I said, going back to it, it's just going to be weird seeing Eli playing for the Broncos next year. Hopefully he doesn't play for the Jacksonville Jaguars. I know that'd be a good spot for him, but I don't want to see him. I don't want to see him there. Jacksonville needs to stay young. I know you got that whole Tom Coughlin connection, but like I said, just keep the youth in Jacksonville. Do not throw old man Eli out there. He's only got maybe 3 years left in his career, and I don't even think those are going to be like 3 good years right there. There's going to be like Eli needs a lot of help, and I know Jacksonville does have help for him, but he'd be better suited in Denver right there. That's the place where Eli needs to go. But other than that, I think that's all I got to say about Eli. Is that all I have to say about Eli? Yeah, you know what? That's all I got to say about Eli right there. That's it. But let's talk about these other teams right here. Did I even talk about their game against the Cowboys this week? No, let's talk a little bit about that game. So you got Dallas heading into New York, facing off with the Giants. And you know what? Eli's going to be back. And on paper, you pick Dallas right here, okay? You don't overthink it or anything like that. But you know what? I am going to overthink it. I'm kind of torn. Do I pick Dallas or do I pick the Giants? Okay, because obviously the Dallas Cowboys are a better team than the New York Giants right now. On paper, on the field, yada, 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 all that stuff, all right? Better team, okay? But momentum is just that one thing right there that can take the 0-11 Browns. Somehow, if they get some type of momentum before a game, they can turn that into a win right there. It's crazy what you can do with a bunch of momentum, okay? Eli's going to be starting this week. The team's going to be rallying around him. I saw on Twitter a couple of times that there's going to be old Giants players on the sidelines wearing Eli jerseys in support of him. So you know what? I'm going to pick the Dallas Cowboys in this game, all right? Eli's probably going to throw a couple of picks and maybe a touchdown in this game, but I'm not the sentimental type of guy when it comes to football or sports, all right? I don't like all that. I understand momentum, okay, and you know what? Cool. The Giants are still the Giants, all right? They're going to feel that, oh, yeah, Eli's starting again. It's so great. And then, boom, the game's going to start, and Dallas is just going to beat them, I think. And, yeah, that's all I got to say about that game, actually, right now. I'll probably be making my picks, talk a little bit more about it on Friday's podcast. That's usually when I do my picks for the Sunday's games. But let's see. Who else needs to be talked about right now? Should we talk about the Chiefs? I feel like I've talked a lot about them. I've done it on the football podcast a lot, but I don't think I've talked too much about the Chiefs on this podcast. So, yeah, let's talk about the Chiefs a little bit, all right? So they started off, 5-1? Now they're 6-6. And right now they're in a three-way tie for first place in the AFC West. Throw the Chiefs out there. You see the Chiefs right there in that tie? Right now they actually have the tiebreaker right now, I think. Let's see. Yeah, they're the number one team in the AFC West, even given all the ties, like the same records right there. But you know how bad that division is, actually, before I even get into the Chiefs? That division is so bad. Denver's 3-9, and they're only 3 games back of first place. That's really AFC West? Really? Supposed to be one of the best divisions in football, and you're barely even producing a 500 team? Really, AFC West? And you know what? The worst team in your division and one of the worst teams in the league is only 3 games back first place in your division? Really? This is like the Big 12. Big 12 usually like the kind of laugh at conference in the league and in college football, because you see them like they never had a title game. Big 12, or they stopped having a Big 12 title game for a while, and then that was what was hurting them from getting into the playoff. And then boom, I mean, obviously it worked out the way it should have this year for them, but they had that title game, and it's like, if TCU beats Oklahoma, then the Big 12 is not going to have a team in the top 4 again, so it really doesn't work out for them. But yeah, just going back to the AFC West right now, it's a 3-way tie. The Chiefs, going back to the Chiefs though, they really let everyone down, man. Alex Smith was looking like a good quarterback, and then it's like he put on like a San Francisco 49ers helmet or something like that, put on some San Francisco 49ers gear, and he turned into that old Alex Smith that couldn't make throws, pretty much the game manager Alex Smith, who pretty much needs everyone around him to do everything for him in order to make him look like a good quarterback. Is Alex Smith a good quarterback? Is that something that is that common knowledge right there? Like, can we all say that Alex Smith is a good quarterback? I think is he good, or is he above average? Because to me, above average and good aren't the same thing. Like, good is pretty much Jameis Winston is good, okay? And yeah, I'm saying Jameis Winston is better than Alex Smith. And we might have to do a quarterback rankings on the next show. That's an idea right there. Boom. See, we're out here producing ideas on the GSMC Sports Podcast. But yeah, I mean, like, is Alex Smith, like, can we consider Alex Smith a good quarterback? Like, he goes out there and he does his job, but I don't really trust the guy, Just like I said, he's been playing like he's back with the 49ers. That's really hurt Travis Kelce. I mean, this last game, they put up 31 points, and Alex Smith threw for almost 400 yards. But either way, it didn't matter because they still lost. They gave up 38 to the Jets. So that team, I don't really get that team. But that's all I got to say about the Chiefs right now. I just really don't understand them. I don't get the Chiefs, man. They always start off hot, and then they just pretty much break your heart at the end of the year. Let's see, who else do we want to talk about? Do we want to talk about the Ravens? I don't know if I want to talk about the Ravens. Let's see. Let's talk about Detroit. All right, so yeah, I've been saying on and on and on and on that, in order to make the playoffs in the NFC, you got to win 10 games at least in order to be considered. And Detroit has a good chance at finishing 10. They got a good chance of going 9-6, and then that last game of the week against Green Bay, that's going to be a tough one right there. Because if Aaron Rodgers is back, then that guy's pretty much the boogeyman of the NFC. What is that? The NFC? Yeah, the NFC North, all right? He's pretty much the boogeyman of the NFC North, and pretty much the NFC. I remember seeing a couple years ago, maybe about 5 or so years ago, I got a good memory, Probably the best memory in the history of memories all time, as our president likes to say. But, yeah, I got a good memory. So, yeah, thinking back, I can't remember which golfer it was. It might have been like Ricky Fowler or someone else, but he was talking about when Tiger was good, you just see Tiger Woods walk into the locker room for the whatever golf country club they're playing at, and oh, Tiger's here. Yeah, we have no chance. And that's pretty much what I feel like. That's how I feel about Aaron Rodgers. Like, obviously you're never going to see NFL players say that, because NFL players are going to be all big, tough, and macho. Can't be scared of no one. But I got the feeling in the NFL that when you see Aaron Rodgers, like say Aaron Rodgers coming off of this injury, it's pretty much like a wrestling return, And like the WWE, WWF type of stuff, right? They come back, you're like, oh wow, he's back, stuff like that. It's like Aaron Rodgers right there. The guy's going to come back, and you're like, uh-oh. Rodgers is back. What do we do now? So, yeah, I think when Rodgers comes back, it's going to be tough for Detroit to try and beat them Week 17. That's probably going to be the game right there. Week 17 is going to be fun because I know there's a bunch of games already as it is that's going to determine playoff spots, and I know probably for that 6th spot in the NFC, it's probably it's going to come down to Week 17. It's going to come down to the Packers, the Lions. And I'm going to go with the Panthers, probably, even the Seattle Seahawks. They got a tough 3-game stretch coming up. So it's going to be the last 2 spots in the wild card are going to come down to Week 17. So it's going to be interesting to see. Detroit, in order for them to make the playoffs, they're going to have to win out. And they're going to have to win that Week 17 game. And same with the Packers. They're going to have to win out and win that game also. And then the Panthers, they really don't have too tough of a schedule coming up, I don't think. I think they got the Vikings next week, actually. So you know what? Yeah, it's going to be a tough game for them. And then, like I said, with Seattle, they got the Jaguars coming up they're playing in Jacksonville, then they're playing the Rams, I believe, in Seattle, and then they got Dallas with Ezekiel Elliott coming back right there in Dallas, and then they got the Cardinals, which is going to be an easy game for them. But it's going to be interesting to see how it all plays out. I'm really excited for Week 17. But that's actually going to wrap it up for the segment. Next up, we're going to be talking about pretty much how we always do. Anything else going on in sports, talk about some Champions League scores from today. I think those games might be starting to finish up. And then let's see, what else we're going to talk about. I'll go over the college basketball scores from yesterday too, and pretty much talk about anything else that pops up into my mind. So stay tuned, and we'll be right back.
Are you looking for help for your fantasy football team? Check out the GSMC Fantasy Football Podcast. Get today's best advice on who to start, who to sit, even who you should draft. From sleeper picks to red-hot lineups, they got it all covered for you. That's gsmcpodcast.com/fantasy-football-podcast. We'll cover traditional leagues, dynasty, PPR, even IDP leagues. When you need fantasy help, there's just one show to hit up. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit gsmcpodcast.com for more info.
Segment. If you missed it or need a quick reminder, we talked about, let me let this music finish out real quick. I don't even know if you guys can hear me. It's really loud enough. But it's a good intro song right there. But yeah, in that last segment, as I was saying, we talked about, what did we talk about? We talked about Eli Manning, him coming back, becoming the starter again for the Giants, where he's going to end up possibly in the offseason. Pretty much talked about how people like to say he throws a lot of interceptions and stuff like that. But you know what? You know who's above him right now in interceptions? Drew Brees. Do we say bad things about Drew Brees? No, we love Drew Brees. So let's say nice things about Eli Manning. You know, I like Eli Manning. People really, I don't know why people, like, what's their problem with Eli Manning? I really don't understand it, you know? People just like say, oh yeah, he only had 2 good seasons. Those 2 seasons he won the Super Bowl. Either way, the guy's top 10 in passing touchdowns, I think, and he should be top 10 in passing yards, and he's top 20 in interceptions. And I always like to point out, you know who's number 1 in interceptions? Brett Favre. Guy threw the most interceptions in the history of the NFL, and we love Brett Favre. Okay, we talk about how great of a quarterback he was. Same with the NBA. You know who's got the most missed shots in the history of the NBA? Kobe Bryant. Okay, Kobe Bryant, great player. All right. Not better than Jordan, not better than LeBron James. Just going to throw it out there. Probably not better than Larry Bird either. Boom, I just dropped that too. Actually, that's gonna be some, you know, we might talk about greatest players of all time. Boom, I'm just throwing out ideas for this podcast. But yeah, either way, okay, you got Brett Favre, who threw the most interceptions. You got Kobe Bryant in his sport, who made the most, missed the most shots in the history of the league. And we talk about those guys like they're one of the greatest. Brett Favre, one of the best quarterbacks, top 10 quarterback maybe all time to play. Is that what people say? That's what I think. But Kobe Bryant, people talk about him being a top 5 player. I think he's a top 10 player all time, not top 5. I'm not crazy or anything like that. Yeah, I get the whole rings argument, but you know, you gotta. I'm more. Also, too, I'm gonna throw this out there. When we're talking about players for any sport, like NBA, NFL, baseball, hockey, rings, they matter. But I mean, we're talking about individual players. Okay, people need to realize that, you know what, rings, you can't win that on your own. You win that because of how good your team is around you. All right, and people, I know when the Warriors, boom, this is a perfect way to start off my segment right here, because we pretty much talk about anything else in sports. So boom, yeah, we're going to do that right now, okay? So people like to say with, LeBron James, oh yeah, he had all this help. Same with the Warriors. They had all that help to win their rings. Jordan did it by himself. Jordan did not do it by himself. And for all you older people out there, I'm not trying to talk mess about Michael Jordan or trying to pretty much bring down his accomplishments or anything like that. All right, I still think Jordan is the best player of all time, but Jordan did not win it by himself, okay? Jordan had one of the best defenders of all time in Scottie Pippen playing alongside him, all right? And Scottie Pippen, actually one of my favorite players of all time. I really didn't get to watch that era, but, we got YouTube and the NBA TV channel where they show the old games, so, that's how I got to see Scottie Pippen play right there. But, yeah, Jordan didn't do anything until Pippen came around and started helping him win games, all right? It takes a team to win a title, all right? Go look at Jordan's first, 5-6 years before Pippen started getting good on that team. Because I know when Pippen came, he came in like the 1990, I think, or 89, or was it 87? One of those, okay, and he was still a rookie, so he wasn't playing well. But when Scottie Pippen turned into a great player, right, that's when the Bulls started winning. And again, I'm not trying to take anything away from Michael Jordan or anything like that, but let's not get it mixed up, right? No one player wins it on his own, okay? The closest you could say about a player ever going and winning it on his own was probably that LeBron James team in 2007 when, Daniel Gibson was probably his second best player on that team, all right? That's the only every time you could say that someone took their bad team to the finals, and I think they got swept against the Spurs in that year too. And I know people like to say Kobe in 2008, 2010, or 2010 specifically, like to say that he had no help. He had Paul Gasol, okay, he had Lamar Odom, okay, Trevor Ariza was a good player on that team. I'm pretty sure Trevor Ariza was on that team, and Derek Fisher was there too, okay. I get that they're not the greatest players of all time, but you know what? Paul Gasol from that year 2008 to probably up until 2013, 2012 was probably regarded as one of the top 5 power forwards in all of the league. You know what? So don't give me that whole, oh yeah, players win it on their own. No, they don't. They need a team in order to win it, okay? You're not going to win any rings unless you got a good team around you. And I'm starting to think, how did we even get into this discussion? We're talking about Eli Manning. You see, Eli Manning brings out the best in me right here, talking about Eli. I got to defend him, and then boom, we're talking about teams winning championships. So yeah, I just don't like the whole bringing up rings part of arguments when you're talking about players, okay? Because going back to what I just said, it's all about the team, okay? You're only going to win a title if you got a good team around you. So it's pretty much like, I've never understood it. Like, oh yeah, rings. Oh, who's got more rings? Kobe's got 5 rings, so obviously he is a better player than LeBron, even though literally every other stat in the history of basketball shows that LeBron is a better player than Kobe. All right, it's true. LeBron, better stats, better player. Okay, I understand the whole rings argument, and I'm just talking in circles right now, just making sure everyone understands this. Rings don't matter when you're discussing individual players. All right, it's a team stat. You want to talk about rings? Let's compare franchises. All right, if we're talking about rings, Boston Celtics, greatest franchise of all time. And one thing, don't give me that whole, oh, Boston won all those rings back then, playing against plumbers, because I'm pretty sure they won most of those rings against Jerry West and Wilt and all those guys. So if you want to call Jerry West a plumber and Wilt Chamberlain, go ahead. Okay, either way, you still got to play the schedule right in front of you, and you got to beat the teams in front of you. It's not the Celtics' fault that they had Bill Russell and all those guys playing on their team. All right, other teams do better. Either way, doesn't matter. Same with everything else. Okay. But yeah, we're comparing rings. If you're going to talk rings, talk franchises. You're going to talk players, talk stats. You can talk about rings also, what they've won. But don't let that be the whole centerfold of your argument right there, because I feel like that's just terrible. That's just lazy. If you want to talk rings being the number one thing for who's the best player, then Bill Russell is the greatest player of all time. That guy's got, 8 rings, something around there. All right? Rings it's not as important as everyone else likes to make it be when you're talking about individual players. You need to start talking stats when you're talking about players, okay? That's my little rant right there, but let's get into some college basketball from the scores from yesterday. So we had an upset actually yesterday. West Virginia, ranked number 18, beat Virginia, who was ranked number 15. West Virginia won that game 68-61. Ooh, biggest upset of the night. Ball State beating Notre Dame. You see how Notre Dame transfers their losing style. Pretty much Notre Dame, when they're thought, oh yeah, Notre Dame's a really good football team. They got a good big game coming up, and you know how they usually blow it, like you know how they did against Miami, and my favorite one, how they did it against Alabama, I think it was, in the national title game a few years back. I think it was when I was a sophomore in high school. So yeah, I got a pretty good memory, like I was saying. But yeah, Notre Dame, whenever they're thought to be a good team, they got a big game coming up. They always pretty much fold up into the armadillo position and cry and hide. But looks like those powers transferred off to the basketball team because, it wasn't even a big game or anything like that. Notre Dame's ranked 9th, and they're going to go way down since they lost to Ball State. Ball State's not even ranked. I think Ball State is now 5-4 because they beat Notre Dame. Let me see if I can find Notre Dame's record on here for the basketball team. Notre Dame, the basketball team is now 7-2. Yeah, Ball State's 5-4, and they beat the number 9th ranked team in the country. All right, 80-77, just brutal. But Michigan State, they beat Rutgers. They beat them 62-52. Miami, they beat Boston University 69-54. Villanova handled Gonzaga. They beat them 88-72. That was a battle between ranked teams right there. Villanova was ranked number 4, and Gonzaga was ranked number 12. Wichita State beat South Dakota State 95-85. South Dakota State was giving them a game a little bit early on. Texas Tech, they upset Nevada. Nevada was ranked number 22. Texas Tech was not ranked at all. Texas Tech is a good team, but either way, when you're not ranked and the other team is, that's an upset. It was 82-76. Duke beat St. Francis from Pennsylvania. I'm guessing that's what the parentheses PA stands for. Yeah, so St. Francis from Pennsylvania. They beat them 124-67. Way to schedule a tough game, Duke. Minnesota ranked number 14. They lost to Nebraska, who was unranked, 78-68. Then you have TCU ranked number 20. They beat SMU 94-83. And Arizona, they upset Texas A&M. Texas A&M was ranked number 7. Arizona was unranked, and Arizona won 67-64. And you know who was calling that game, commentating that game? I don't know who the primary guy was. I don't know his name, but I just recognize him. But Bill Walton. Bill Walton, go ahead and listen. Some people don't like Bill Walton too when he's calling games because he just goes off and mumble, like pretty much talks about anything that comes into his mind. And you know what? I love that about Bill Walton. Okay, whenever there's a college basketball game on and Bill Walton's commentating on it, I'm watching that game for sure because Bill Walton's always just gonna say some stuff that makes you laugh. Well, at least it makes me laugh. Me and one of my buddies like to talk to each other about how just pretty much whatever Bill Walton is saying in the game, because the guy just goes on and says whatever he wants. I mean, let me see if I could pull up. I had a little quote from Bill Walton in yesterday's game. It was hilarious. Let me see if I could pull it up. But yeah, just Bill Walton. That guy just says whatever he wants, and I can't remember the guy's name who talks with him during the game too. But that guy's just pretty much, oh yeah, Bill, is that so, Bill? Really, Bill? And you could tell the guy does not like Bill Walton. Not like Bill Walton the person, but you can tell he's starting to get a little bit annoyed because of just Bill Walton just going off and talking about anything, Let me see. Oh yeah, I got it right here. So Bill Walton yesterday says they're talking about players who used to play in the Pac-12 and pretty much exciting players, because there was a player for Arizona, I can't remember his name, but he was playing really well, really athletic guy. And then Bill Walton goes, hey, Jaylen Brown, you remember him? You old enough to remember him? And the other guy goes, yeah, Bill, that was 2 years ago. That part right there, when they were talking to each other, that had me laughing all over the place. Because, yeah, Jaylen Brown played for Cal Berkeley 2 years ago. And it's just funny, Bill asking me, oh, yeah, you remember Jaylen Brown? Were you old enough to remember him? And the guy just goes, yeah, it's just from 2 years ago. It's just making me crack up. I love listening to Bill Walton. The guy just makes you laugh. I mean, pretty much, it's like you're watching a basketball game, but you're also just watching for the next craziest thing Bill Walton could say. But that's all I got to say about Bill Walton right now. I was going to talk about something else. What was I going to talk about? Oh, yeah, so Herm Edwards finally introduced at Arizona State. I was talking to one of my buddies about it, he's like, yeah, Herm Edwards is a 6-10 NFL coach. Why is he out here going to go coach Arizona State? And I told him, you know what, if you're translating it, Arizona in the Pac-12 is basically a 6-10 NFL team at the college level. Arizona State really, they've always been that mediocre team in the Pac-12. Maybe every couple of years they'll get an upset, and they're not bad. They're not they don't get to how Washington State used to be really bad before Mike Leach got there. But yeah, before that, Washington State was just brutal in the Pac-12. Arizona State really never gets down to that. I might be wrong about that, but as of right now, off the top of my head, I really don't think Arizona State's ever really gotten that below. They're not really that bad of a team, but they're not really that good of a team. They're just pretty much just mediocre, and they're just there, So yeah, just Herm Edwards at Arizona State. That's gonna be a weird fit right there. I know I talked a little bit about it a couple podcasts ago, but now that they've finally introduced him and stuff like that, it's gonna be just I don't really understand it. I think he's just there for a culture change. And we're just really going to see how it all works out for him. I don't think he's going to spend any more than 2 years there, 3 years tops. But I don't think he's going to last that long. I really don't understand it. I mean, how is he going to recruit? I mean, is he going to give him the whole, son, I'm an NFL coach. I know what it takes to get there, okay? And I can help you get to that level. He's going to give him that speech, or he's going to give you know what, son? Give him that whole Herm Edwards like he used to do on ESPN. You know what, son? Okay, not only am I going to make you a good football player, but I'm going to turn you into a man. Okay, those are the two speeches right there that Herm Edwards has to give to his recruits, because I don't understand, like, how are you going to sell your recruit on Arizona State? That's not even the best school in Arizona right there, okay? Arizona University is better than Arizona State as far as football goes. And Arizona State, I can't remember that quarterback's name, but watch out for him in the Heisman next year. I think he's going to have a good shot at winning it if Arizona State can at least play well and at least win some games. But yeah, I just don't understand, like, the whole Herm Edwards trying to recruit type of problem that they got going on there. I mean, are recruits really want to go play for Herm Edwards? Like, really? I mean, he might get those fringe players right there that USC doesn't want, UCLA doesn't want, Oregon doesn't want. But I mean, I don't know. I don't think it's gonna work out too well. But we're gonna see how it all ends up. But before we end the show, let me give you the scores right now, as of right now, for Champions League. Let's see. Let me see if I can pull it up right here. Here we go. Excuse me. Right now, Real Madrid, they are tied, I believe, 2-2. I got it up right here. Sorry, it's taking a while, but yeah, Madrid's tied 2-2 right now against Borussia Dortmund. Tottenham's winning their game 2-0. Liverpool's beating Spartak Moscow 5-0. Then you got Shakhtar, who's beating Manchester City, actually 2-0. I'm not sure if Manchester City is playing their all their starters right now, since they pretty much advanced into the next group. I doubt they are, because I think this is the last game for Champions League group stage before they go into the round of 16. Right now, Napoli is tied 1-1 with Feyenoord. RB Leipzig is losing to Besiktas 1-0. Porto is beating Monaco 4-1, and then Sevilla is losing to NK Maribor 1-0. But yeah, those are how those games are going on right now. We should be finishing up in about a half hour. But that's actually going to wrap it up for today's show. Quick recap: we talked about the NBA games from Tuesday night, and then I made my picks for Wednesday night. Hopefully, I get a lot of games right. After that, we talked about the Thursday night game between the Falcons and Saints. Later on in the show, we talked about Eli Manning, his start coming back. We talked about the NFC wildcard picture, and we talked about the Kansas City Chiefs and the brutal AFC West. And then for this segment, we pretty much talked about everything. We talked about how when you're talking about players, talking about rings shouldn't be the basis of your argument. Okay, that shouldn't be the primary thing right there. And then what else? We talked about college basketball, and we talked about Herm Edwards. But yeah, that's it. Like I said, that's going to wrap it up for today. Thanks for listening. We'll be back tomorrow as usual. So thanks for listening to the GSMC Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Jesse Tapia, and we'll talk to you tomorrow. So stay tuned.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.